Mike Welsch coming here from the paddock at Belmont Park, and what better place to talk about this year's Belmont Stakes than in front of the statue of the greatest Belmont winner of them all, Secretariat. We'll see now if his name will be joined on the list of Triple Crown winners in a couple of days by Justify. And a pretty odd lead up to this year's Belmont Stakes. Only 4 of the 10 prospective starters have been training here regularly on the grounds. We've also had Hofburg up at Saratoga. He did arrive here yesterday and went to the track today, and the other 5, including the feature attraction Justify, have been at Churchill Downs. Justify scheduled, still not here yet, scheduled to arrive on Wednesday. Fortunately, through video, we've been able to keep track of Justify and all the others that have been working out of town. But we'll start reviewing this year's field with the 4 that I've been seeing here on a regular basis for the last week and a half. That would be Noble Indy, Vino Rosso, Blended Citizen, and Gronkowski. I've gotten the chance to watch them all work twice each, and all have done, look pretty well. Of course, good horses work good usually, and they haven't disappointed. Noble Indy and Vino Rosso, I've been impressed with what they've been doing since they ran in the Derby. Neither of them got a very good trip over that wet track in the Kentucky Derby. So you can kind of put an X through their races, and they're both progressing nicely here for trainer Todd Pletcher. They worked in company 2 works back. Noble Indy, I thought, looked particularly good. They went quick, 47 and change. Noble Indy working without blinkers that morning. Usually he's not as aggressive without the blinkers, but he was very sharp. Went head and head with Vino Rosso. Both galloped out well. Javier Castellano aboard Noble Indy, Johnny V aboard Vino Rosso. They came back last Friday to work. Todd had to call an audible, was planning to send them over to the main track, but a sudden shower turned the main track into a sea of slop. The training track was still in a little bit better shape at that time. So they went over there. They worked in 2 separate teams, but with similar modus operandi in their works. These were stamina enhancing 5 furlong works, both going in company, both finishing well, and then asked to gallop out at least an extra quarter mile. Noble Indy almost went out a full mile, and Vino Rosso a strong 7/8. So I think they're both coming up to the race well. I look for them to both move well forward off of their performances in the Kentucky Derby. Whether they're good enough to beat Justify and some of the others in here remains to be seen. Blended Citizen, first work back after his victory here in the Peter Pan. A very easy, comfortable half mile, just cruising along. Thought he looked great that morning. Came back last Saturday, worked before the races, was scheduled to work a full mile from the 3/4 pole, but for whatever reason, that work did not quite go as planned. He wound up working 5 furlongs from the half-mile pole with Mike Luzzy aboard. Didn't look quite as sharp to me in that work as he had the previous work here, Blended Citizen. Gronkowski has had 2 works over the main track here. Now, Gronkowski is a synthetic track and a turf specialist. Finally got a chance to stretch his legs over the main track here for his new trainer, Chad Brown, and I thought he's looked good in both works, especially his first one. He's been working with a multiple graded stakes winning sprinter, Engage, and he's been able to hold his own in both works, probably getting the better of Engage both times. The first one a quick half mile, last time 5/8 of a mile with a pretty decent gallop out. So he's doing well. He looks like he's handling the main track well. I'm just not so sure that he's up to this kind of competition here that he's going to face, and the mile and a half also a big question mark for Gronkowski, who I think, looking at his form and looking at these works, could be a more of a pace factor than people think. Hofburg has been working exclusively at Saratoga over the Oklahoma training track. He's kind of the buzz horse here. Ever since the Derby, everyone's been talking about him, that when he gets to a mile and a half, that's going to be his game. He worked terrific going into the Derby, didn't get a great trip in the Derby. He looks very good since in his 2 works that I've seen on tape coming out of the Derby, especially earlier this week. He easily got the better of a Good Samaritan. I saw him best Good Samaritan in a work at Payson Park prior to the Derby. He beat him even easier and galloped out strong at Oklahoma the other day. So he's coming into the race, looks good, got here this morning, first time over this racetrack, he was looking around, gawking a little bit. Didn't show the same kind of energy here that he did in his gallops before the Derby, but I expect now that he's been over the track once and got a chance to look around, we'll see a little more from him tomorrow and the rest of the week. The big horse, Justify, he's been back at the Churchill Downs. The key with him is how is he holding up after this kind of grueling schedule he's had. A lot of races in a short period of time, a grueling race in the Preakness. From what I could see on the tape of him, his gallops and his works, he looked like he's handling it just fine. His 2 works were excellent. I know I was going to give him an A- for the first work back, and between a B+ and an A- for his work the other day, which was really strictly a maintenance work, but he looked terrific galloping out, had plenty of energy. So, you know, from the looks of things, it doesn't seem like he's going to regress coming into the Belmont, but the 1.5 miles, the pace scenario, everything's still a question mark with Justify, who obviously is still the one to beat. Bravazzo, the runner-up in the Preakness, running well in the Preakness on the Derby over wet racetracks, remains to be seen. It looks like the weather will be fine here for Belmont Day. His last work for Wayne Lucas was a stamina-enhancing mile. Just an average-looking work. He finished up okay, did it pretty easily. Nothing to really comment on one way or another. It served its purpose, I'm sure. Restoring Hope, also for Bob Baffert. He's a very good workhorse, and he didn't disappoint, working right after Justify the other day at Churchill Downs. A decent work, but I just don't know if he's this caliber. Tenfold looks like he's come out of his Triple Crown races looking good. I like what I saw from him on tape and his works at Churchill Downs. Seems to be coming into the race doing just fine for trainer Steve Asmussen. Free Drop Billy, always a good workhorse. He seems aggressive in the morning. They're working. It looks like they're putting a little more speed into him coming out of the Derby and coming into the Belmont, and maybe he'll be a pace presence as well, and someone that could give Justify, you know, maybe a little early run for his money. So that's a quick look, rundown of the field as I see it now. We still have a few days to go. We're still anxiously awaiting Justify's arrival here, although he's not going to do too much in the 2 days that he's going to be here prior to the Derby. But we'll have one more report on how things are shaping up once everybody's on the grounds later this week. And again, for the best coverage of the Belmont Stakes, don't forget the Clocker Report too. We have a special 3-day Clocker Report for the Belmont Festival starting Thursday, Friday, and of course Belmont Day Saturday. And everything that you need for the Belmont Stakes and the entire festival card will be available on DRF.com and DRF Live.